Okay guys, so for you Mac users out there like me, here is how you get a compiler or an IDE on macOS. It was suggested that we use code blocks for this class, but code blocks is really not user friendly for macOS. It's really geared towards Windows and other operating systems. So your best bet is to go with Xcode, which is this app down here, because it's very native for macOS. It's robust. It's pretty simple compared to other industry standards like Microsoft Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a little bit more complicated. It's not really user friendly for most beginners, where Xcode is really not that bad as long as you know how to open up a project. And there are a couple other advanced things you need to learn later, like debugging and things like that. But this is how you get Xcode, and here's a little tutorial on how to use it. So to get it, you have to go to the Mac App Store. You need to be logged into iCloud in order to download it. So you can see I'm already logged in down there. You're going to type in Xcode in the search bar. It'll come up as the first result. For you, it'll say download right here instead of open. And it will take a while because you can see in the bottom it is 6.1 gigabytes. So if you don't have that much space on your laptop or your Mac, you need to clear out probably at least 7, maybe 10 gigabytes, or else it might not even allow you to download the app. So that's a really important part. And because it's such a big application, it'll probably take you, I would say, at least 30 minutes to download. If you have a slower internet speed, it's probably going to take you an hour or more. So be patient, maybe let it go overnight if you don't have anything to do, and then just go from there. So yeah, we're going to exit out of the App Store, and here's Xcode. When you open Xcode for the first time, it'll ask you if you want to download APIs or if you want to download like Apple Cloud Kit and other developer tools that are very advanced tools. And of course, none of us need to use those things yet, but it's always a good idea to keep Xcode up to date and the same as any other developer's Xcode application on their Mac. Okay, so we are going to open up Xcode now. So we're going to click Xcode. You get 3 main options when you open up Xcode. You can either get started with a playground, create a new Xcode project, or clone an existing project. I think clone an existing project is pretty self-explanatory. It's where these two options that people get confused. You don't want to open up a playground because that's where you can use Swift, and Swift is Apple's proprietary coding language, which is just a simplified and streamlined version of Objective-C. But we're not using Objective-C for this class. We're only using regular C. So you're going to click Create a new Xcode project. You're going to click Command Line Tool under the macOS tab right here, this tab. Click Next. And then for the product name it whatever you want. So I'm just going to name it Assignment 3, for example. For organization name and organization identifier, you want to make sure it's set to your name. Because when the program is created, your name will automatically go into the comments header. That way, when you submit the source code later, it already has your name on it. You don't have to add it. Under language, this is critical. Make sure it's not Swift or Objective-C, or else you're going to be super confused. You're going to be super lost. Everything's going to be wrong. Same thing. C++ and C are not the same. So make sure you click C, and then click Next. It'll ask you if you want to create a Git repository. Yes, the answer is yes, because this is where you drag, or this is where you access your source code file later when you want to submit it to Canvas. For me, it's a little bit easier to just save it to the desktop, but if you're one of those people who has their entire desktop like cluttered with random pictures and files and stuff, and you might lose it, then I would suggest making a folder just for your coding assignments and just save it to that folder every time on this list. So I'm just going to click Create. This usually comes up when I'm using my Hackintosh, so it'll say no author information was supplied by the version control system. If you want to, you can just click Fix if it annoys you and type in your name and email, and it should go away. Otherwise, you can just exit out of it. It's one of those things. To actually edit your source code, you don't even have to worry about any of these things. You can just go straight to main.c, which is the source code file. Just like I said, it has my name right here, copyright 2019 Alex Robinson. It's always going to add that in as long as your name is in those fields that I showed you earlier. Every time you create a project, it will open with the most famous hello world, and you can even run it if you don't believe that it works. You can click the play button up here, which allows you to run your code. When you run it, the console will come up in the bottom. I know this is pretty small compared to Visual Studio, so all you do is drag it up. Now you have a bigger console. And yeah, so make sure you're on the main.c. This is the play button. If there's anything glitchy with your code, like for some reason you create a loop and there's no parameters to stop it, it'll just go on forever and ever and ever, and it won't stop. And sometimes it'll make your computer like lag out, especially the Macs, because they're not really that good at utilizing memory. So it could fill up the memory to some extent. It won't fill it up completely. It'll fill a lot of it up, and it could start slowing down or even crashing Xcode in some cases, not a lot. In that case, you'd want to go up here and just pause it, and then you can fix whatever mistake you made, play it again, and then hopefully your program runs the way it's supposed to. So as a little example of what Xcode can do and kind of how the process looks for creating a program in Xcode as compared to Visual Studio, I'm going to create a sample program based on one of the questions from the quiz we just had, which was how to enter a length in inches and get the conversion back printed to the user in centimeters. So I'm just gonna speed this up so you can just see kind of like a quick process of creating that program and how it would look when I print it to the screen. So here you go. I'm just gonna go over it real quick and speed it up. That way you don't have to wait. Okay, I'm actually going to stop it right here real quick. Just ignore these errors right here. They don't mean anything right now. One of those things that I commonly forget when I'm making the program, this is like probably my most common mistake. It's super simple, and you'll find that in programming, the simple mistakes is what messes you up and makes you frustrated. Whenever you're doing a scanf, I always forget to put this AND operator, which basically whatever the user inputs, it saves that value into the variable, the float, inches. And I often forget the AND operator, and what happens is I get this error over here. It'll say format specifies type double, but argument has type double. And that doesn't really make much sense. So I always see that error and I'm like, okay, well, or at least I used to see that error and be like, okay, what the heck is going on with my code? And it wasn't until I had to do just a little Google search on Stack Overflow, and I was like, okay, all I'm doing is I'm missing that AND operator. That's just one example of some of the simple mistakes that'll mess you up. So here you go. I'm going to keep going with the code. Okay, so the program should run well now. You could see I just corrected one of these mistakes. I accidentally had the data type as long float, which is LF, and I'm using float. So instead, it should just be %sign F instead of LF. So now my program, it will run as usual, and the formatting should be good to go. So here you go. I already actually ran it, but I'm going to pause it and run it again. So I click it, it'll say build succeeded, so that's a good sign. It'll say enter your length in inches. So for example, we're just going to put 1. It'll say the entered length in centimeters is 2.54. The program ended with code 0. And this will say this all the time in Xcode. I don't remember if Visual Studio says this, but at the end of your code, you put return 0, which basically returns the value 0 to the compiler and ends your program. So it'll always tell you that the program has ended. So that's actually kind of good feedback to know if you're stuck or if the program is actually done. So there you go. That's it. That is the output of this code. So that's pretty much it. That's the basics on how to use Xcode. And then maybe later, if you guys want to figure out how to debug your code and go line by line, I can show you how to do that, because that's something that's really important to do when you don't know what's going wrong with your code. But that's a little bit more advanced, and that's probably way too far ahead for now. So that is the little tutorial on how to use Xcode. And if you have any questions, you can just send me an email on Canvas, or you can message me on the Discord. And if you haven't joined the Discord, you can also send me a message on Canvas. But I already sent an email out to everyone in the class with a link to join the Discord. So if you have any help, or if you have any questions, I can help. And I also make Quizlet cards, Quizlet flashcards for the quizzes, and I'll probably keep doing that because it's a pretty good study tool. And now that I know what the quizzes look like, I can kind of tailor accordingly and make some more example questions that are the same style as the ones in the quiz. So I hope this helped, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.